Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Buck. Here. Senator Daly. Here. Senator Hammond. Here. Senator Lang. Here. Senator Pazina. Senator Scheibel. Here. Senator Stone. Here. Chair Spearman.
Here. And so today is the last day before first committee passage deadline. And we've got several bills on work session. We have about 3 that we're going to hear. And what I'm going to ask those of you who are presenting, if you have people that are going to testify, 2 or 3 people to say the same thing is unacceptable, because if we don't get through all of that, we won't get through the bills, okay? So let's do that. And I don't see anyone in Las Vegas, but welcome if you're there. Welcome to those who are with us online. And always remember that pursuant to NRS 218E-085, that it is unlawful to make a false statement when testifying before a legislative committee. And if you do so, you're guilty of a misdemeanor, and any member of the committee can ask you for documentation. And so with that, let's open up the hearing on Senate Bill 69. And we're going to take 15 minutes, okay? All right.
I'm hoping less than that. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of Senate Commerce and Labor Committee. For the record, Brett Scoleri from Strategies 360 on behalf of CPCM Holdings, Cura Cannabis Solutions, Green Mart of Nevada, and Clark Natural Medicinal Solutions. Down south, we also have Executive Director Tyler Klimas and Chair Michael Douglas of the Cannabis Compliance Board. Also in the audience today, we have Chris Nielsen, General Counsel for Governor Lombardo, and George Togliatti, Director of Nevada Department of Public Safety. We know your time is extremely limited and appreciate you allowing us to present this proposal on deadline day. Like many of you who have received calls from a frustrated industry, so has the governor. I appreciated you, Madam Chair, urging us early session to work with the CCB and find solutions. The governor urged the same. It is a monumental task getting those who are regulated in a room with their regulator to discuss issues on a shortened time frame. It also is a tall task to find common ground on those issues. But we accomplish that and more with this proposal. So I'm here today as a cannabis industry representative with CCB representatives to present a concept amendment to SB 69 to replace the original bill in its entirety. Quite frankly, it was time for the industry to stop whining and complaining about the CCB and the illicit market threat and roll up our sleeves with the CCB and find solutions. Recognizing that other important cannabis measures are being considered this session, including the Creative Mentorship Initiative in SB 402, the fines and fees reforms in SB 195, administrative procedure reforms in SB 328, wholesale tax reforms in AB 430, and initiatives to advance the cannabis industry in SB 277, our discussions focused on 2 distinct issues. Create a more collaborative and respectful relationship between the regulator and the regulated by enabling reforms to the CCB board governance to foster regulatory policy discussions at the board level that preserve and promote a strict but fair, transparent, and equitable regulatory environment. And 2, provide tools and resources to the CCB and other state agencies to meaningfully disrupt the illicit market and the major crimes and criminal operations associated. There is no doubt that Nevada is the gold standard for regulating licensed cannabis operations, but sometimes it needs a little polishing. And Nevada can also be the gold standard in addressing the illicit market at its core by disrupting those crimes and criminal operations that flood the market with unregulated, unsafe, and untaxed cannabis products. The industry and CCB share the same goals: to bring high-quality, safe cannabis products to consumers and patients, and maximize the collection of tax dollars coming into the state and local government, with the lion's share ultimately routed to the state education fund. So now on to the amendment, which is separated in 10 separate concepts for ease of reference, and you can follow along in order of the document that has been provided. and this document is also posted on Nellis. Concept 1, proposed changes to NRS 678A.005. This recommendation makes various changes to the preamble of the Cannabis Compliance Board to more accurately reflect the role and purpose of the agency by striking a balance between the strict but fair regulation of those operating licensed cannabis establishments with an acknowledgement and consideration of the unregulated and unlicensed market that presents unique challenges to the regulators, licensed operators, and the general public. These changes do not scale back the importance of a strict but fair regulatory system for the licensed operators. The changes are designed to also focus the CCB on the protection of the public health, morals, good order, general welfare of Nevada residents and visitors, and the resulting tax revenues when facing a persistent and robust unlicensed market, often associated with large-scale criminal operations and unsafe and untested products that are often targeted at minors. The changes acknowledge that a well-regulated industry is important to the state welfare and economy and runs contrary to the criminal and corruptive elements of the unregulated and illegal market. Concept 2, proposed changes to NRS 678A.350. This recommendation specifies that the board adopts and sets a regulatory policy based upon the public policy enacted in statute by this body. This change reinforces the board's obligation to review and adopt regulation policy and aims to promote open and robust discussion to give the regulated industry more predictability and participation in the regulatory process. Concept 3, proposed changes to NRS 678A.360. This recommendation revises factors for the governor to consider when appointing certain board members. For instance, the changes include special references to experience in agriculture, manufacturing, distribution, retail, law enforcement in illegal cannabis activities, laboratory sciences, and experience in both the benefits and detriments of the use of cannabis. The proposed amendment also removes the cooling off period for the industry-related board position to attract quality candidates with relevant experience. These changes are not designed to be limiting, but give the governor additional flexibility when appointing board members who might have different experiences in a wide range of subject areas that are similar or related to industry topic areas and could benefit the agency in making sound policy decisions. In regard to the removal of the cooling off period for the industry board position, this is being proposed to make sure this position attracts qualified individuals who might sell their cannabis business, retire as an executive of a cannabis business, retire from cannabis law practice, or perhaps leave the industry with a desire to serve on the board. With the industry still young, the cooling off period severely limits the pool of qualified candidates. Concept 4, proposed changes to NRS 678A.370. This recommendation staggers board member terms, allows change of the chair position after 2 years, adds a vice chair position, requires board members to receive general training similar to a cannabis establishment agent, and revises the governor's ability to remove a board member for neglect of duty. By the current statute, board members serve concurrently commencing on the last Monday in January. It is sound policy to stagger those terms to promote continuity and stability of the board. Allowing the governor the option to change the chair after 2 years is a valuable tool if the board requires such a change for a number of reasons. The addition of a vice chair is also good policy, as often the vice chair is the next member to serve as chair. Lastly, the addition of removal for neglect of duty is consistent language with other agency boards, including the Gaming Control Board. Concept 5, proposed changes to NRS 678A.420. This recommendation provides that the executive director of the CCB is appointed and removed by the governor. It also revises factors for the governor to consider when appointing the executive director to include special references to skill and experience in the fields of agriculture, manufacturing, distribution, or retail, or experience in regulated and privileged licensed businesses and industries. Moving the executive director to a governor appointment promotes more interaction, cooperation, and consistency between the governor's office and the agency. Further, this is common for similar state agencies. The executive director of the Department of Taxation is appointed by the governor. Also, the governor appoints a member of the Gaming Control Board to serve as both chairman of the board and executive director of the agency. The recommendation also aims to enhance the executive director position with additional factors available for the governor to consider when making the appointment. Concept 6, proposed changes to NRS 678A.440. Summary, this recommendation revises board powers to include provisions to commit resources and take actions to address unlicensed and illegal cannabis activities as follows. Referring these activities to the Department of Public Safety and Attorney General for investigation and prosecution of such matters. Educate the public on the dangers and illegality of unlicensed cannabis activities and the importance of regulated and licensed cannabis establishments by using different mediums and public outreach and communications. Create a confidential means for the public, licensees, and agent card holders to report on unlicensed cannabis activities. And establish a civil disciplinary system for unlicensed cannabis activities, including the seizure and destruction of cannabis and cannabis products related to the unlicensed activities. The illicit market is not easily defeated, but we strongly believe it can be disrupted meaningfully with enough resources and tools in the toolbox. At the heart, this disruption must focus on the root of the problem, the larger scale operations flooding the marketplace with out-of-state, untested, untaxed, and unsafe cannabis products. These operations are highly organized and carry criminal elements that need to be combated with trained law enforcement professionals. Giving the CCB a tool to refer these matters to the Department of Public Safety and the Attorney General is a crucial step in this direction. Also, giving the CCB additional tools to address the illicit market, such as public education and a tip line, are good means to assist in disrupting the unlicensed market. Concept 7, proposed changes to NRS 678A.450. This recommendation includes a provision to train and certify board agents prior to commencing inspections, audits, or investigations of licensees. This recommendation also revises the board's regulatory foundation for enforcement and disciplinary action to establish a system to educate and advise a licensee or registrant on items of general compliance without being subjected to disciplinary action. Lastly, the proposed changes contemplate that the board establish specific grounds to initiate disciplinary action for grossly negligent acts, omissions, and other serious actions threatening public health or safety. Rationale. These proposed changes promote regulatory predictability and an educate first, discipline second environment. A strict but fair and equitable system that promotes discourse and respect between the regulator and licensees can be lost at times, and these changes intend to ensure that cooperation. Concept 8. This recommendation directs a portion of the cannabis wholesale excise tax distribution to the Department of Public Safety and Attorney General for the purpose of investigating and prosecuting major crimes related to the unlicensed cannabis activities. With this funding, the Department of Public Safety and Attorney General can build upon an existing infrastructure to establish units to investigate and prosecute major crimes and criminal operations in the illegal and unlicensed cannabis market that is a threat to the safety and welfare of the public and a threat to the regulated cannabis market. Concept 9. Proposed changes to NRS 244-35253 and NRS 268.0977. This recommendation directs local governments to use a portion of the license tax proceeds to educate the public on safely purchasing cannabis from licensed sellers, as well as safe consumption and use of cannabis products. Customers continue to knowingly or unknowingly buy cannabis from the illegal market, which causes an array of public health and safety concerns, including sales to minors, untested products that may be laced with other drugs, and violent crimes associated with illegal sales. There are currently no public funds directed to fund awareness campaigns related to safe cannabis purchasing and use. Concept 10, proposed changes to NRS 453.321. This recommendation was requested by local law enforcement and the Nevada Resort Association. It clarifies the illegality of possession of cannabis with the intent to sell. I believe those representatives are here. I'm not quite sure, but I believe they're here today and can answer questions on this recommendation. Again, we appreciate the committee's precious time today, and you're allowing us to present these important policy recommendations. With that, Madam Chair, I will turn it down south if Mr. Klimas or Mr. Douglas have comments. Otherwise, that concludes my remarks, and I will be available for questions.
Why don't we do this, see if the committee has questions, and if it pertains to their area of expertise, they can answer, okay? We need to move. Committee. Senator Pazina.
Thank you so much, Chair. A couple questions. How would these staggered terms be implemented, and would someone lose their position early?
Thank you, Senator Pazina. Through you, Chairman, to Senator Pazina, Brett Scolari for the record.
Go direct.
Thank you. Brett Scolari for the record. That is something that we are still looking at. Right now, they're all tied to the last Monday in January, and I believe that the existing members' terms terminate in January of 2025, and there's no intent in this to remove anyone at this time. But when the new appointments do come up, there will be a new staggered date. So we need to set that date with LCB if this moves forward to set those dates. So there would be staggered when those new appointments happen.
Thank you so much. One more question. The current proposal has the governor's office selecting the chair, the new vice chair, the members, and it looks like the executive director now as well. Who currently selects the executive director?
Right now, the board itself selects the executive director and removes the executive director.
Yeah, let me do a follow-up. So the entire schema of the recommendation has no input from the legislature.
The only thing that we are changing the only thing that we are changing at
State your
this
name.
point,
State your
Brett
name.
Scolari for the record, the only change that this makes that's different from how it is now is moving the executive director appointment to the governor.
Yeah, I understand that, but my question is specifically, there's no involvement in the new schema from the legislature.
At this time, there's no appointment made by the legislature of board members or the executive director as it sits today.
Vice Chair?
Thank you. So I know this work group has been meeting for a while to figure out kind of where we wanted to head. Can you talk to me a little bit about how the group was made up and what the diversity on the group is?
I might defer to the Governor's General Counsel on that. We were asked to be a participant on that, knowing that, Brett Scolari for the record, my apologies. We were asked to be a participant on a group that would get the CCB folks together with the industry, knowing that Strategies 360 had multiple cannabis clients, so we served as a participant. We had no authority to appoint members to the working group or otherwise. We just were a participant.
Follow-up, was there ever any opportunity to suggest someone to join the working group? Or it was just selected and then move forward?
Madam Chair, for the record, Chris Nielsen, I'm Governor Lombardo's General Counsel, and to answer the last two questions, I think this was an informal group, and the idea was to get the regulators and representatives of the industry together in a room to hash out some of these issues. As Mr. Scolari stated in his opening, from day one of Governor Lombardo's administration has been, and this is no criticism of the regulators, but it is what it is. There's been one issue after another, and I believe it was was created, if you will, at some point last month. This was not a day one ongoing informal group, and we got as many of the cross-section of the industry together, along with Mr. Klimas and, of course, Chair Douglas, in a room together, and there were, I believe, 3 or 4 meetings over the course of the last 2 to 3 weeks, and this is the product of what we came up with. So that's kind of how it evolved.
So, did you invite, like, anyone from the Chamber of Cannabis or anyone, was it a diverse, I'm looking for diversity on the group. I mean, I think diversity is really important because it's what makes up our state, right? And so was there diversity, or was it just people the governor decided he wanted to invite?
Again, for the record, Chris Nielsen, I think the diversity was, from our perspective, it was the diversity in that we wanted to get a cross-section of industry or individuals that represent growers, retailers, the whole gamut of the cannabis industry, again, alongside with the regulators, including Chairman Douglas, in a room, and kind of hash out these issues, at least at a high level, and see if we could find some common ground in these 2 areas. And I think, given the time limitations and given that the genesis of this group started rather late, admittedly, these concepts may not be fully baked. We believe that these are 2 areas that need to be addressed this session.
Thank you.
So my follow-up. So was there diversity in gender? And can you break that down for me?
Yes, Madam Chair. I believe, as far as gender diversity, I believe there were,
Now, how many of whom?
well, I believe Chelsea Capro was there, Lake Martin participated, and I believe Mr. Adler can add to that.
Hello, Will Adler with the Sierra Cannabis Coalition. I would like to emphasize this was a sort of spur of the moment or a reactive approach to sort of the problems of cannabis in Nevada today. When we looked at the current bill drafts from the Cannabis Compliance Board, it didn't appear that any of those would address the directional changes that the industry, nor the governor's office, nor some of the elected officials we spoke to wanted to get into. But
Yep,
as,
Mr.
far,
Adler?
as far as diversity,
Yeah.
I can say Lake Martin of the Nevada Cannabis Association is, of course, a female, but her representatives, Chelsea Capurro, and then myself. But I do think there is a lack of maybe full inclusion
Mr. Adler,
in this
Mr. Adler,
process.
I'm just going to push because we're not going to have
Okay.
a lot of time. So here's the issue that I have. We have an industry that the business plan was perfected by people who are now in jail or had felonies and could never qualify to buy a license. Our state is diverse. And one of the things that I have experienced my entire life is, as a black woman, seeing, quote, working groups and hearing people say, well, we just kind of pulled it together, and there was no indication that there was outreach. In 2020, we had a resolution because COVID was not revelatory in the sense that many people think. COVID was revelatory because it pulled back the covers on the inequities that exist in BIPOC communities, to include health care. And to his credit, Governor Sisolak pulled together diverse people to make sure we were addressing that. But the resolution said, we declare that racism is a public health crisis. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying you all are racist, okay? Let me be clear. I'm going to say that again for the record. I'm not saying that you all are racist, okay? What I am saying is that there is a system of racism that exists in our country, and if we are not acutely aware of that, and if we don't take painstaking initiative to make sure everything that happens, that there are diverse people in there. Was Aisha Goins included? She's a very prominent name. in the whole industry, a very prominent name. So just a question, give me a one-word answer, and then we're going to move on. And listen, I'm not saying you are racist, but it always offends me when I hear people say it was pulled together at the last minute, and apparently no one from the Black community, the Latino community, the indigenous people, not a lot of women, and especially Aisha Goins, who has worked her tail off to try to bring equity to this industry. And I don't know if there's anybody in the state that's been paying attention since we passed medical marijuana in, 2013? I don't know if there's anybody that doesn't know her name, okay? I'm not calling you racist. I'm saying we have got to be intentional about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if we're not, we're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. There's always going to be a small group pulled together at the last minute, and we just pulled folks together, but it never occurs to anybody about diversity. And like I said before, and this, I've said this many times, the issue that I have right now with the industry is that the business plan was perfected by people who went to jail. And if you look at even the licensees, very little diversity. Very little diversity. So I'm off my soapbox. Who is that, Melanie? And you all are not racist. Let me say that again. I don't want anybody to leave here and tell the lie that I called you racist. You're not racist. But this is something that we have got to be intentional about. And if we are not intentional about it, by design or default, then we push forward a system that excludes diversity. Just saying.
Thank you, Chair Spearman. I share my colleagues' concerns about the diversity of the group, the secrecy surrounding the group, and I am glad to see Mr. Nielsen up at the table because my first question was, how did you, Mr. Scolari, end up stuck in the hot seat answering all of our questions instead of a member of the governor's staff?
Brett Scolari for the record. Thank you for your question. I think I'm sitting here because let me give you my background. Before I joined Strategies 360, I was 8 years involved with a multi-state operator and as general counsel and director of government affairs. We came into this session 100% not to exclude anyone. We came into this session from a operator standpoint, representing operators, frustrated with kind of how things were going. And, you know, my apologies for not including more folks into this. You know, that's on us. But I think the goal was really to, those folks who are licensed right now, they have frustrations with their regulator. They have frustrations with the illicit market and those big elements of the illicit market. So that was our goal, and whether or not, because we did not include other folks, that's on us, and my apologies for that. But it really was a focused goal, and it was the relationship between the regulated as we sit today and the regulator as we sit today. So that's where I was coming from. Thank you.
And I appreciate that. In this committee, we've heard a couple of bills relating to cannabis and the cannabis industry, and that has been a common theme, that license holders are struggling with the relationship with the CCB and how they're regulated. And I think that, there are a number of legislators in this building who've been trying to address those problems along with other stakeholders and community members. So I want to move away a little bit from the problems with the working group itself, which I take very seriously, but I want to talk a little bit about the policy, and particularly in what's been labeled Concept 8, And it's still entirely unclear to me whether any local governments were included in this working group. But it looks like you're reallocating money from local governments to state governments. And I'm wondering what their feedback was like on that provision, if you even talked to them about it.
Thank you, Senator Brett Scolari, for the record. I will say, yes, that was an idea. We did run it by local governments, knowing that they would be concerned about that requirement. We consider this loosely as a placeholder. We needed to find funds, and where this kind of the rationale to this, I think, is we had to find funds to go after this, have a real impact on. And there's funds from the wholesale tax that are distributed to those local governments. They have that mechanism to mitigate cannabis activities in their local jurisdictions. They also have a 3% license fee that they can charge on gross revenues of cannabis establishment licensees. So they have funding mechanisms. This was kind of an idea to redirect some of those funds that would create a statewide unit that could look at this as a whole and coordinate the illicit market activities with local governments, local law enforcement, other state agencies. So that was the theory behind that. I know they're going to come up in opposition to that. We've indicated we will work with them if this does by chance move, and we can be in a finance committee and work on those issues. So that's kind of how we left that issue.
So where's the data to support that taking a statewide approach is more effective than letting local governments handle the illicit markets in their own communities?
I'm not aware of any, Brett Scolari for the record, I'm not aware of any studies or that this is new, and I know this is a new concept. The discussion centered around how do you disrupt the illicit market on a statewide level. Some local jurisdictions don't have the resources, so the state could fill those gaps, right? Some of the larger jurisdictions might have task force that could coordinate with this unit, with the state. So it was kind of a look at it from a state perspective, because cannabis is regulated at a state perspective, it's taxed at a state perspective. So I think the coordination could flow from the state down to those local governments. Some local jurisdictions might have their own task force that could work with this unit in the Department of Public Safety. We've seen instances where rural counties are affected by this. There's warehouses full of cannabis that's been imported from other states. There's operations that flow out of rural counties and into the urban markets. So that's really the rationale behind it. Maybe it's not perfect today, but it's a start. Thank you.
One more, oh, sorry.
I was just going to comment, Will Adler with the Sierra Cannabis Coalition, and looking at the intent of that initial $5 million per year allocation under the Sandoval administration, it was thought of as the unknown effects of legalization of cannabis and the unknown effects of having cannabis sales in the legal market and what the impacts of that legal sales would be. And what we've seen is the adaptation of legal market concerns actually turning into these illicit market concerns, because we've basically legalized the ability to possess and sell very small quantities of cannabis, and the disruption of that is becoming almost impossible for small local government effective task force to do, or non-interconnected pieces of the state, because it does cross county lines, it does cross borders, and it is one that is pervasive and in sort of in toxic, this toxic sort of continual process that is hard to stamp out one by one at a county level. So it is sort of become a state level issue, and these are state level funds. So I think it does make some sense to look backwards for the intent of these funds to now look forwards for the application of them going forward.
And just one last policy, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may just add to that, Senator, that's exactly it. We don't, in talking with Director Togliatti at the state, and I believe he's down in Las Vegas, this isn't certainly meant to have the state 100% take ownership of this by any means from the law enforcement end. It's really, as Mr. Scolari said, to give states some resources at the state level to work with the local and federal jurisdictions when appropriate on these so-called major crimes that typically involve grows in certain grows in rural counties, certainly transportation on our highways that go from county to county. So it isn't certainly meant to supplant any local resource. I just want to make sure you're clear of that. Thank you.
Thank you. I do appreciate the clarification. So just one last policy question about addressing the illicit market in cannabis. Because I'm not seeing it in the bill. Is there any strategy other than policing, other than investigating, arresting, putting people in jail, fining them, criminalizing them? Is there any other piece of the puzzle that the governor's office is undertaking to address illicit cannabis?
Senator, on concept, I believe, 6, well, there's an educational component to this. Turn over to Mr. Scolari.
Brett Scolari for the record. Under concept 6, board powers, we enable some board powers. In addition to the law enforcement activities, you have the education piece in 7 sub B, the confidential tip line in sub C, and then the civil process that the CCB could adopt by regulation for those unlicensed activities. And then also in concept 9, we ask the local governments to participate in that public awareness campaign as well.
Senator Stone.
Thank you all for your presentation, and I like a lot of this bill, especially going after the illicit market. The illicit market, they claim, could be 50 to 65% of the market of cannabis here in Nevada, so that hurts certainly the people that are following the rules. I worry with the illicit market that you're not getting what you think you're getting, especially with laced products, including fentanyl, which can create morbidity and mortality, which we've seen in 80,000 people dying of fentanyl overdoses in the United States over the past 12 months. And certainly, there's a loss to our schools that are really the true beneficiaries of the excise tax that are not getting what they truly deserve. It was brought up that local governments have their own ordinances that require a certain percentage of sales to them. I believe in Las Vegas, I think they have a 3% tax, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, approximates to about $18 million a year. I hope that they're using that nexus for that tax, not to pay for road improvements, but to pay for the illicit market and educating the public about why it's important to use a licensed retailer of cannabis products. I also like the efficacy of having the Attorney General as a partner. But I have to be honest with you, I am concerned with basically telling local government public safeties agencies that basically we're going to divert all of their resources to the Attorney General, who is now going to be responsible for the entire state. So in populations of 300,000 or more, I represent the city of Henderson. The city of Henderson has a robust plan to go after illicit users. So what I would request as this bill moves forward is that you continue to work with public safety in local jurisdictions to see if there's not some compromise where they can still get funding, because here's what's going to happen if you take it away. If I was a local elected official in a city and a county, and then of course we are always worried about the state taking our money away, but what we had to do sometimes is supplant what the state took away from us. So let's say in Las Vegas, if we enact this bill and becomes law, they may take that percentage of 3% and go to 6%. So what's that going to do to the price of cannabis? It's going to drive the price of cannabis up. And what's that going to do? It's going to push more people into the illicit market. As far as the criminalization of the illicit market, I hope that you'll use every single tool that you can to bring prosecution to those entities, including cartels that have found Las Vegas to be a very easy place to do business and to further their exploitation of people using cannabis that just don't know what they're getting. So I applaud the efforts that are here today. I applaud the governor for helping to facilitate the authoritarian rule of the CCB, which has, I think, been overactive and hurting our retailers and penalizing them with heinous crimes and not crimes, heinous fines and time and charges, which we've already discussed in other bills. And so I think that this bill will temper a lot of that. And I appreciate the hard work, especially at 9 o'clock on the last day of getting bills out. This was a very comprehensive effort, and I hope that we can get it in a place where we can say it's cooked and ready to go. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Madam Chair, may I make a quick comment to Senator Stone's? Thank you. Thank you, Senator Stone, for your comments. First off, I just want to say when it comes to the prosecution, I just want to make it clear this would be, under this concept, it would be give the Attorney General's office at the state co-jurisdiction over this. So just really another avenue. The intent certainly is not, and that was represented by me to the Attorney General's office, that this would be a co-jurisdictional it wouldn't be exclusive to the state, and it wouldn't just still lie solely with the locals. And second of all, in regard to the regulators, I want to applaud Mr. Klimas and Chair Douglas for getting to the table with this group, however it came about. But they participated in a meaningful and a very professional way, and I just wanted to make sure that that this committee is aware of that. It was a short but collaborative process. From both Mr. Klimas and Chair Douglas. I'm sorry, Chris Nielsen for the record. I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Senator Daly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And more comment, because a couple of my questions were already asked by my colleagues, one from each side, actually, right? And so there are some things of merit in the bill, but I think part of it on the illicit drugs or illicit sales, the local governments are going to view this as taking their money. And my concern sending it to the other two areas on the statewide, not that an approach like that, but that money, how are we going to make sure, and I think you got this work to do as you go forward, how are you going to make sure that it actually gets to the streets and gets to some of these things? My observations have been you give another $1 million here to the AG, nothing against the AG, but it gets lost in the shuffle, right? Is there focus? Is there someone assigned to this? So I think there needs to be better coordination between the locals, who probably already have people on the ground, and if they need some more help. Same thing with the Department of Public Safety. You give them an extra few $1 million and it gets lost in their pool. And I have that concern that it's going to be ineffective without that local government coordination, which we already established and talked to in developing this. So if you got any way to do that, and I think the other thing you got to work on is the board makeup and the appointment on that to make sure that there's, not just a single silo of control there. And you got to get over those hurdles. Anyway, not really a question. If you want to comment, that's fine. I just don't want to see the money get lost in the shuffle.
Senator Stone.
Thank you. Just one follow-up in response to my colleague's questioning. Can you just explain to me what the wisdom was in empowering the Attorney General to be the prosecuting entity versus using district attorneys? And I'm speaking more like Clark County, Washoe County. I've always believed that local control is better. And I'd like to just hear the wisdom of why you thought that the Attorney General might be best. Maybe it's because we have smaller counties with smaller budgets, DAs. Maybe you could bifurcate the program where the Attorney General can look at the rural counties and the bigger counties that like to have control with their district attorneys. Maybe we could bifurcate that funding and fund them appropriately instead.
Yeah, Chris Nielsen from Governor Lombardo's office. Senator Stone, to kind of answer your question, again, we're as Mr. Scolari stated, if this was a state, the legalization of cannabis was approved at the state level, it's regulated at the state level. under this proposal, we're contemplating giving the state additional resources on the investigative end. So the policy in looking to the Attorney General's office would be to give them give the investigators one more avenue for prosecution. And again, not exclusive to the Attorney General's office. It would be, I believe, on a case-by-case basis. I think what we talked about, it would be probably 2 additional deputy attorney generals at the Attorney General's office. And then they would work in conjunction with the local prosecutors and local enforcement, depending on where these took place. We've heard time and time again, and these are anecdotal, that arrests have been made, referrals have been made, and for one reason or another, whether it's a lack of resources or a priority, there's nobody to prosecute this. And this isn't certainly a criticism of any local law enforcement activities. But this would just give another tool in the tool shed, given that this is regulated at the state level, and frankly, that it's a tax imposed at the state level as well. I hope that answers your question, Senator Stone.
And if I might add, real quickly, Brett Scolari for the record, I will point you to Concept 7, and it's the new Sub 3, Senator Stone, and that really speaks to the coordination between CCB and then local and state law enforcement. So I think that there gives the CCB the tool to come up with the regulation, how they will refer these tips or initial investigations, whether they refer it to the Attorney General or they refer it to the local agency.
And if I may, Will Adler for the record, Sierra Cannabis Coalition, the nature of the beast today is one where you get very small crimes, very, misdemeanor-sized crimes with these networks that distribute it out from even California, not just in Nevada, different counties. But it's hard to piece these pieces together without having a state-level prosecutor who will take the time to go in and dig into these, because a single DA will bust that one kid who brought in $1,500 worth of product in a rental car that they can't seize, that they'll put the kid away for a whole 24 hours, then he gets bailed out. It doesn't feel worth the DA's time, and he doesn't have the means to follow through, because at a local level, nobody thinks that guy's a hero because he's busting some kid with a single delivery. But it is trying to tackle that whole network behind that having these state-level resources really do a lot to tackle. So thank you for hearing this.
Senator Hammond.
Madam Chair, I feel like I have to say something at this point. A lot of the questions that have been asked about diversity and the group, and perhaps even the word secrecy, I wouldn't use that word particularly, but the group was put together very much about a month ago. And my participation in the group was that they needed somebody to sort of mediate between the industry and the CCB. And so if there's any fault, I suppose that the fault would lie with me, as I was asked who should be a part of the group. I'm not the guy that actually runs in that circle. I don't know a lot about cannabis at the time. And so when asked about participation and who should be in the group, I kept thinking of the ones that I see here often in these meetings around cannabis. And so I wanted to make sure also that the group was somewhat small. My experience, as many of you have probably experienced when you put stakeholders together, when you have a lot of time, it's great to have many stakeholders because you can get a lot of ideas. But when you're crunched for time, you limit it a little bit. My one experience back in 2015 when I was working with then Senator Ford, and we had an HOA meeting. That was a very large stakeholder meeting, and it was about the only time, I think, in my whole legislative career I walked away after every meeting with a headache. And so I wanted to make sure that we got to the gist of the issue. And also I wanted to make sure that Tyler Klimas and Justice Douglas, who I had a great time working with, because there was 2 regulators in the room and a lot of other people from industry, and they held their own, and we pushed back on issues, and I think a lot of things came out. that helped us understand what the issues were and how we could overcome them, and then how the industry could coexist with the CCB, and the CCB be able to regulate and this industry and coexist at the same time. And so, if there's any fault, I think it lies with me. But I tell you, I think going forward, we'll make sure we include others if there's an occasion, and especially there should be, I hope, that this bill gets out so that we can continue to work on the necessary issues that plague the industry. And so I hope going forward. But anyway, I thought I should state that on the record that they did the best they could, but I sat down and I asked for what we got here today.
Thank you. With all due respect, and I appreciate your comments, one of the issues that we've always had with respect to dismantling sexism and racism has always been the fallback. Didn't find anybody, or it was short notice, or don't know anybody. And so, as someone who grew up in the early civil rights movement and was spit at and called the N-word and expelled from school because I wouldn't let them call me that, I am really sensitive to that. And people who were born in privilege really have no idea what I'm talking about right now. And the same thing for women. We became the first female majority legislature in the country in 2019. There were newspapers all across the country that came and talked to us. We have remained a female majority since that time. And if you look at our caucuses, well, let me say the Democratic caucus, okay? I think you got much of the same in the Republican, but I'll speak from our caucus. We got black, white, we've got Asian, we got straight, we got gay, we got bi, we got men, we got women. I mean, you could not look more like America than our caucus. And so whenever there is a group of anybody, even if it's a group of ants, diversify it and put some roaches in there. It just can't be all the same. Because the other thing, a lot of this is not fleshed out, and diversity of thought would have helped get you there. There are some things in here that are good for law enforcement, but to his credit, Sheriff McMahill has a diversity task force or something like that, because he recognizes the importance of that and the outreach to communities of color. Because, you can talk about enforcement, but enforcement without some other accoutrements to it that deter people from doing that is hollow. Because the only thing that will happen is the same thing that happened in the, quote, war on drugs. It'll be the same people getting picked up. The other thing that I'd say is we have Senate Bill 402, the Cannabis Mentorship Program. Someone asked me the other day, would state funds be, no, not state funds. I think if the industry is really serious about diversifying, they should figure out a way to pay for that. Some good points in here, but the lack of diversity is really a problem for me. And Senator Hammond, I'm not discounting what you said, but unless people showed up with tape over their mouths, somebody could have said something. I'm just saying. Some of you don't know me. This may be your first encounter with me. I'm like real. And I'm not going to say anything privately that I can't say publicly. What I say once, I'll say twice. This is not an attack on you personally, nor is it an attack on Governor Lombardo. But I think it's very important for us to highlight that we have an industry. Licensees are dominated by, quote, the used to be majority, because now the global minority is the majority. And I just don't see how we escape it. You can have 3 people and have diversity. And you can have 300 people and not have diversity. So it's not the numeric count, it's the quality. It's the quality. Okay, you want to step back? You got anybody? I think you all have said what you need to say in support. Let's go to opposition.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Warren Hardy, today representing the Urban Consortium, which is made up of the cities of Las Vegas, Reno, Sparks, Henderson, and North Las Vegas. I want to thank the members of the committee for identifying our concerns with regard to the funding mechanism. I would associate myself with Senator Daley, Senator Stone, and Senator Scheibel with regard to their concerns. We would otherwise be in support of this concept. We think that the fight against illicit cannabis is a growing fight and a growing concern. Our cities are very active in dealing with that at the local level at various levels. We think good coordination with the state is important, but we do have significant concerns about the precedent of dipping into traditionally local government funds to fund the state program. I may say that if we ever were to agree to do that, it might be to go towards the fight on illicit drugs, illicit sale of cannabis, but we simply cannot support the precedent that creates. So we look forward to continuing to work with the stakeholders to find a resolution that will bring this forward, because we do believe the illicit sale of cannabis is an increasing problem in our state and want to be a partner. And again, I think as somebody mentioned, we do have programs at our individual cities. Our law enforcement are very capable of doing this. And one could argue that the local government is the place that this should be resolved. But we do welcome contribution and participation from the state in this. All hands on deck. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Vincent Guthrow for the record. I serve as Executive Director of NACO, the Nevada Association of Counties. We stand in opposition to the Concept 8, which is that diversion. We oppose the diversion of funds. When this was originally proposed, this was carefully crafted language regarding this distribution. Also, I was not, unfortunately, I can't speak for my other local government folks, but the NACO was not asked or involved in a working group on this legislation. I just want to make sure that's on the record. Otherwise, we would have been able to share our concerns in advance. I think for us, for counties, that money, is my understanding, is that we use it for its intended purpose currently. And under the concepts 8 and 9, we are asked to reduce our revenues and then do more. So I'm just concerned about that. We do stand in opposition, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Stephen Wood, for the record, representing the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities. Quickly, I will just echo the comments that were just made by the Urban Consortium and the League of Cities. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that the League of Cities was involved in the negotiation on the initial language that passed a few sessions ago, and the distribution. However, like NACO, we were not involved in the discussions this time, but are looking forward to that. But as it stands, we are in opposition. Thank you.
I don't see anyone moving to the table, and those of you who came here in support, forgive me, I am just really undone. I really am just really undone. In the 21st century, I'm just undone. I'm just undone. Anyone here for support? Mr. Adler, I think you've made your position clear, so let someone else occupy the chair, please, okay? Thank you.
Good morning, Scott Rutledge with Argento Partners, for the record, representing Deep Roots, Green Life Productions, Momson's Management. Our support is for the policy that lives within this legislation. It's been discussed a number of times that the illicit market is a major issue for this industry and for the residents of Nevada. So we're here to support the policy of this work, and certainly have heard the committee's comments this morning loud and clear, and would like to offer up the opportunity to work with any of the other stakeholders. I know there's been a number of pieces of legislation that have had some other voices involved this session, and so hopefully we can find a way to continue to put some of these different pieces of the puzzle together to make some solutions, viable solutions for both this legislature as well as our industry. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair Spearman, members of the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee. My name is John Jones, here on behalf of the Nevada District Attorneys Association. I'm here specifically to speak to Concept 10, which is in the proposed amendment. And I want to say the reason that Concept 10 is in the statute is there was a case in Clark County. And that case, in the case, the judge ordered the Board of Pharmacy to deschedule marijuana. And the effect of that was to remove marijuana from certain criminal offenses that we use to charge in the criminal system. Now, I want to say, Chair Spearman and Senator Scheibel, I fully agree with your comments that law enforcement can't be the only entity going after the illicit market. I think it's important that we have education campaigns, that we have civil enforcement remedies, that we have better coordination between local and state governments. I could not agree more with that statement. But what the case in Clark County has done is left us with only a few statutes specifically dealing with marijuana, and they only deal with possession, that being the possession of over an ounce, and then our marijuana trafficking statutes, which begin at 50 pounds. So what this would do is give us the ability to charge somebody who is possessing it with the intent to sell, or somebody who is actually seen transacting marijuana and they do not have a license under Title 56. So thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Chair Spearman and members of the committee. My name is Beth Schmidt, SCHMIDT. I represent the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I want to begin by saying, Chair Spearman, you and I have spoken about this, and I really appreciate you talking about how not only my sheriff, Sheriff McMahill, but our previous sheriffs, we implemented the MMAC committee, which is Metro's Multicultural Committee, and that has helped to drive us in our policy and how we run our organization, and we are the better for that. So I thank you for acknowledging that. I want to echo John Jones's testimony. We support Concept 10, and that is because this affects our ability to address the illicit market, marijuana market. And we're not talking about someone with a little bit of marijuana. We're talking about someone, this is selling a large amount of marijuana. And because of this court ruling that descheduled marijuana, we support Concept 10, and I thank you for hearing our testimony today.
Thank you. And just let me be clear. I understand the support. I think you all know I'm a retired cop. One of the things that I did in the military at Fort Hood was I was OIC, Officer in Charge of Military Police Investigations. I get that. I really do. There may be some other ways that we can accomplish this, though. Okay?
I acknowledge that. Thank you.
And we can talk.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you to the committee. For the record, my name is Esther Badiata, spelled B-A-D-I-A-T-A, with Sala Consulting, here representing Planet 13 Holdings, Hardin, and Hardin Premium Cannabis Dispensary. With the amendments today for SB 69, we just want to say that we particularly appreciate the provisions aimed at tackling unlicensed cannabis activities, and we believe that these are significant steps towards addressing the illicit market, which is harming the public, undercutting legal licensees, and depriving the state of Nevada of its tax revenue for K through 12 education. Lastly, we strongly support allocation of funds each year for PSA campaigns. We believe that it is important to have this addition towards protecting our communities from harmful products and making sure they understand what these products, the products that they are purchasing. Again, thank you to the committee for taking the time.
BPS, is there anyone on the phone in support?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 69, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
VPS, is anyone there? If not, we'll move on. Is there anyone here testifying in neutral? Don't see anyone coming to the table. No one coming to the table in Las Vegas. Sponsors, closing remarks? Yeah, it's neutral. Neutral. I thought I did neutral. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brett Scoleri for the record. Again, I really appreciate your indulgence in letting us present these important policies today. The comments, especially your comments and other comments, they were taken to heart and noted. And we hope to have the opportunity to work on this policy, work with the local governments on the funding piece, and move these important policies forward. So I thank everyone for your time.
Chris Nielsen for the record. Madam Chair, I echo Mr. Scolari's comments, and on behalf of the governor, I want to thank you and this committee for, again, hearing this, these policy considerations, especially here on the last working day, and we take to heart the other discussion that took place here today as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for listening, and thank you for taking that to heart. And in politics, there's always the danger that when you speak out for policy, there's always the danger that politics may become involved. I've never been concerned about that, and I hope you understand that. That's never silenced me. If anything, it said sick 'em. So, thank you. Okay. With that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 69. Let's take a brief recess, about 5-minute recess.
I'd like to call Commerce and Labor back to order. And open the hearing on Senate Bill 436. Senator Spearman, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Vice Chair Lang, members of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. For the record, I am State Senator Pat Spearman, representing District 1, Senate District 1 in Clark County, and I'm pleased to come before you today to present Senate Bill 436, which addresses the need for timely and efficient response from home warranty service companies. As you know, mini home warranty is service contract designed to protect homeowners from the high cost of unexpected repairs and replacement of major home systems and appliances. When these essential home services break down or fail, families can find themselves in dire straits, often a significant financial burden or even being left without essential services like heating, air conditioning, or plumbing. Homeowners purchase warranty policies in good faith, trusting that their investment will be met with reliable and prompt service. In most cases, the annual average cost of home warranty ranges from $300 to $600, which breaks down to an average monthly payment of $25 to $50. You can also expect to pay a service fee of around $60 to $100 each time a technician comes to your home. Approximately 1.4 million out of 5.64 million homes sold in 2020 had home warranty coverage. And as of 2022, the home warranty industry has a market size of $3.6 billion. According to a review of home warranties, about 40% of home warranty providers will send a repair technician within 2 days of receiving a claim. However, too often, homeowners find themselves waiting for days or even weeks for their home warranty service providers to respond to their claims and requests for services. This can leave them without necessary home systems and appliances, further complicating their lives and causing additional stress. It is essential that we address this issue and demand timely responses from these companies. Requiring home warranty service companies to respond promptly to clients' claims and service requests is not only a matter of principle, but it is also a matter of public safety and consumer protection. The quality of our lives is directly affected by the environment in which we live, and a home that is not properly maintained or has malfunctioning systems can pose serious risk to our health and well-being. Unfortunately, this measure that is before you today comes much too late for one of our City of Henderson's residents, Virginia DeSapia, who passed away August 2022 in her home, along with her dog, after dealing with multiple days without air conditioning. According to the reports, temperatures inside her home reached 120 degrees. Ms. DeSapio's air conditioning went out on August the 11th, 2022. And documents show she filed a claim that the day that her home warranty company, that day with her home warranty company. However, her appointments kept getting canceled, and the AC was finally repaired on September 5th, about 2 weeks after she had passed away. By implementing legislative measures to hold home warranty service providers accountable for timely responses to client claims, we are ensuring that homeowners receive the level of service that they have paid for and deserve. We must establish clear guidelines and expectations for these companies so that they understand the importance of their role in maintaining the safety and comfort of our homes. In response to the tragic events, I am compelled to introduce Senate Bill 436 to further address service contract providers. Existing statutes in Chapter 690C of NRS regulates service contract providers, and defines a service contract as a specific agreement in which a provider is obligated to repair, replace, perform maintenance on, or indemnify or reimburse the holder for repairing, replacing, or performing maintenance on goods. These statutes also grant the Commissioner of Insurance the authority to assess civil penalties against the providers who fail to comply with the law or who violate any order of the regulation. Senate Bill 436 requires service contract providers to maintain a contract for an adequate network of employees of contractors that is sufficient to fulfill their obligations to the holders of a service contract at a timely and reasonable manner, including duties to repair, to perform maintenance, to respond to urgent requests. If a provider fails to maintain such a network or workforce, the holder is entitled to reimbursement for any reasonable and necessary cost incurred to repair, replace, or perform maintenance on the goods. I think we have someone on the line who can testify, and I only recently became aware of Mr. Sapio's demise. But the other reason that I was compelled to bring this is because I had several people in southern Nevada who were calling me. In June, the average temperature there is 102. When you get to August, it's usually north of 117. Who were calling because they couldn't get their home warranty service provider to answer a request for service. And so as I looked at it and thought about it, and my limited legal knowledge, looked at some of the statutes and then began to talk with the Commissioner of Insurance, I said, we have to do some things here legislatively to make sure that people are protected. We have to make sure that once people pay their money, that they are indeed given the service that was promised to them. I'll say this, and then I'd like, Madam Vice Chair, if we can go to the phone. The home warranty industry has a market size of $3.6 billion. And when you talk about persons who have a home warranty, and when they are denied, and anywhere between $60 and $100, it costs $75 every time I have to call for service. I can absorb that, but not a lot. But there are other people for whom $75 is the difference between them paying a utility bill, paying their rent, or paying their mortgage. And when you don't get the service that you contracted for, I believe that that is wrong. That is wrong. On this hand, you have people who have service contracts and pay for them and depend on them to work for them when things aren't working. And on this hand, you have a $3.6 billion industry that can afford to hire dozens of lawyers. The person over here probably doesn't have that luxury. All service contractors are not bad. There are some very good ones. This bill is designed to say to those who are not abiding by their obligations and the contractual obligations, if you're not doing that, you can't not do that in Nevada. You can't not do that in Nevada. That's what this is about. And if we don't do something to protect the consumer, what you have is the consumer over here, an ant, and the home warranty company over here, an elephant. We cannot expect the ant to win a fight with the elephant. Can we go to the phones now?
Please go ahead.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 436, please press star.
I'm sorry,
now and take your
BPS.
place in the queue.
BPS, we have someone that's going to speak on behalf of this bill on the phones. It's Bonnie Rayna? Raiden? Bonnie Raiden.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. One moment. Stand by, Chair.
Bonnie Raiden, if you are on the phone and you can hear us, can you please press *9 now to take your place in the queue and speak on the bill? Again, we're looking for Bonnie Radin. If you can please press *9. Vice
Public
Chair,
line.
you have one on the phone who is responding at this time. We do not have anyone with that name on the line.
Thank you, BPS. We'll go ahead and move forward, and if she happens to come on the line, would you please let us know?
Yes, Chair. Vice Chair.
Thank you, and that completes my testimony for now, and I will step back if there's anyone here who would like to testify in support of this bill. Oh, I'm sorry.
And we have some questions from the committee.
Yes.
Okay, Senator Pazina?
Thank you so much, Vice Chair, and thank you so much, Senator Spearman, for the presentation. I was wondering, what is the time frame for the service provider to provide service to fulfill the request?
I'm going to say, with my policy, it's usually within 3 days, but I do have the Commissioner of Insurance here so that he can answer those technical questions, okay?
Please go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Lang. Senator, to answer your question, first of all, my name is Scott Kipper, Insurance Commissioner. And Senator Spearman is correct. The service contract provider must respond within 3 days and have a service, I believe they have that response out to that residence within 6 days.
Thank you so much. And to echo what Senator Spearman said, when the temperature reaches 115 degrees in Las Vegas, 3 days can seem like an eternity, and I imagine 6 would be torturous. So thank you for that.
Senator Buck.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lang and Chair Spearman. I really like the bill. I often say it's better to put your money in an account and save it up and not touch it than go with a lot of these companies. If you're not aware, my husband owns an AC, small AC company. And many times he ends up going to bat for the homeowner against these home warranty companies. A lot of times there's items in the fine print where they have to have a service of their AC every year or at a certain amount of time. And sometimes, most of the time, they don't cover things that inevitably leave people who have paid into, like you said, these policies, and they don't cover them. And so I was wondering if at some point we could expand that so that they cannot do that. Because oftentimes my husband gets paid in cookies and beer instead of, just by doing the right thing, because he can't leave people without AC. And so I would love for that to be added too, because I do see that as a huge problem.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. For the record, Scott Kipper. Senator Buck, the contracts are reviewed and approved to make sure they're compliant with Nevada revised statutes in 690C. Certainly the division would be open to opening up that framework of regulation to include some of these issues that you just mentioned.
And then also, I know in the AC time, it's really hot certain times of the year. And so you don't have the workforce necessarily to, get there. Is there any solutions as far as that goes?
Madam Vice Chair, for the record, Scott Kipper. And I think that's one of the provisions of Senator Spearman's bill, with this bill that would create a network of providers. It will be endemic upon the division to ensure that those networks are sufficient to provide the number of service contract providers in the event of, particularly hot weather down in Las Vegas. As my 95-year-old father has a service contract warranty and lives in Henderson, we worry about this. So this is not just a state policy issue, but it's also something that's very personal to me and my family, that we want to make sure that these things are taken care of as efficiently and as quickly as possible.
And also, it's not seasonal dependent, so it could be any time of year, right? Because a lot of times the heater goes out and it's cold too. I know that it doesn't get as cold as it would in Iowa or maybe up here where you would freeze, but I know that that's important too.
Thank you. Senator Daly.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and I just wanted to follow up on a previous question regarding timely and reasonable manner. And I know you said typically within 3 days or 6 days on the outside, so there's a range there. So my question is, where is that language at? Is it in statute, regulation, or is it language that's in the contract? Because if people are going to have a remedy, I was just curious of where that language is housed, and then you guys review the contracts, obviously, so.
For the record, Scott Kipper and Senator Daly, I am, having not looked at this statute very clearly, we have certainly a number of experts within the office, but I do know that 3 day and the 6 day is a requirement. I am not certain whether it's in the NRS or in our regulations, but I do know that those numbers are correct.
But it's typically in the contract. The contract would need to reflect the requirement, or do they just rely on the statutes or the regulation, wherever it may be?
For the record, Scott Kipper, that is correct. Senator Daly, those would be within the contract.
Senator Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Kipper. Appreciate you being here. I share some of the concerns of my colleague here. A lot of these contractors, they bid for these contracts, and when you run into problems, at least in southern Nevada, it's when we have 110, 116 degree weather, and then you call the insurance, and it can be days, it can be weeks before you get a response. Sometimes you'll have somebody that says, okay, you've been assigned to this contractor. You call the contractor and says, okay, we'll be out there, and then they cancel because they get a private customer that pays more money, and they're going to push it off to the next contractor. So I'll say this: there's not enough HVAC contractors during the height of the heat of southern Nevada. My wife and I were in our home for 3 weeks without having an air conditioner fixed. Fortunately, we have more than one air conditioner. We went into another room that was air conditioned, but we were not able to be in our master bedroom for 3 weeks waiting for somebody to come out. And then when they came out, they said that, okay, your problem is with a splitter, right, which governs where one air conditioner will go into one room or another. And they said, well, that's not covered. Well, even though it's a part of the air conditioning infrastructure. So I know that this bill is great, and I'm going to support it, but I hope your office will not only require these home warranty services to articulate what they cover, but they should articulate what they don't cover as well, so that a studious person buying these insurance policies knows what they're getting or not getting. And just to give you a little, another issue, I had one of my rentals that had a 6-ton air conditioner that went out, okay? In the insurance, it says it covers air conditioners. But in the fine print, it says up to 3 tons. So I could have had 2 3-ton air conditioners that would have been covered. But because it was 1 6-ton, they refused to cover it, and it cost over $10,000 to replace. So we need to make sure that things are much more transparent. And the last question is, this bill allows a insured to go to an alternative contractor if they're not getting timely service by their contract with the insurance company. What is that demarcation that allows me to say, okay, I've waited a week for an air conditioner service, they're not coming out. My pets can't survive in the heat, I can't survive in the heat, I'm calling another company. I find a private company, they come out, they charge me $1,200. What is the process for me to get reimbursed, and what is that timeline?
Senator Stone, for the record, Scott Kipper. And I believe in that situation, it would probably, a complaint would be filed because the provider may or may not be part of that network. If the complaint would come into the Division of Insurance, we would investigate this, and under the provisions of this statute, would have the authority over that service contract provider to make good on that claim.
So to follow up, what you're saying is that if we have a problem, that before we expend money for an alternative contractor, we need to call you first, and we need to get an okay from you that they're being insubordinate, and go ahead and spend the money, you're going to get reimbursed.
For the record, Scott Kipper, and Senator Stone, not to be argumentative, but I would say go ahead and get that service taken care of first, then send them the bill. If the bill is not paid, contact our office and allow us to intervene on the consumer's behalf.
And Senator Spearman, one of the things, and I think this will answer your question, one of the things that we've done with the bill and the language, and we met with the commissioner a couple of times to make sure that what's in statute right now, they have the ability to enforce. And so the reasonableness, the adequacy of network, those are things that they will put in the regulatory requirements.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you, Senator, for bringing this forward. This is a really good protection for our consumer protection bill, and I strongly support it.
Yeah, and so there's one thing that I neglected to mention, and I've got the PowerPoint coming to the members, and it'll be up on Nellis. Here's some claims, numbers on claims that have been voiced or voiced against some of the service contractors. Claims handling services, the basis on which the insurance company is ultimately judged by its clients. Between January 1, 2022 to November 18th, 2022, there were 287 complaints related to claims handling. Some larger warranty companies have as high as 88 complaints in 1 year.
Senator Bonnie's on the line now. Would you like me to go to her?
Yes, please.
Okay. BPS, if we could get Bonnie on the line, that would be great.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
For the record, this is Bishop Bonnie Radden. I live in the Lakes in Las Vegas. I had purchased a home warranty program from Amazon. Amazon sold me it for 5 years. I paid close to $6,000. I am a cancer patient, a breast cancer patient, and last summer, in July, my air conditioning was giving me a challenge. I called someone out. They looked at it. I called the warranty people, which they told me to bring someone out, and then they told me to submit to them what was wrong. I did that. Then they told me to go ahead and have it fixed, then submit the bill, and they would pay for it. That didn't happen. I did exactly what they said. I found someone that could do it. I got 3 bids. I found someone who could do it that was reasonable. They replaced it. I sent the bill to them. Then they told me, well, maybe they could pay $2,500 towards it. This was a almost $10,000 bill, and I have been unemployed since April of 2020 during the pandemic. So it wasn't like it was, an easy thing for me. They still have never recognized, nor have I received any reimbursement, number one. And then about a month later, and I had coverage on all this. I had the premium coverage. The contract says they'll take care of it. My water heater went out. The same situation, the exact same situation. Told me, get it replaced, send them the bill, and they'll do it. Didn't happen at all. Also, let me say this. I know that they have hundreds of claims against them. I had a plumbing issue. The plumbing company that came out before on Amazon said, I'm sorry, Bonnie Radden, we cannot come out because we now have a lawsuit against them because they owe us thousands of dollars that we went out on. I'm praying that we get this together because this is, I don't want to get emotional, but it was very, very difficult, especially in a time of my life that was struggling. And I appreciate the opportunity to present my situation in front of you today.
Thank you so much. And Senator Spearman, if you're finished, we'll ask you to step back and we'll open it for public comment. All those wishing to speak in favor of Senate Bill 436, please come to the table. In Las Vegas as well. Seeing none, is there anyone on the phone wishing to speak in favor of Senate Bill 436?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 436, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller,
Hello,
go
can you
ahead.
hear me? Again, for the record, this is Bishop Bonnie Radden. I just wanted to say one more thing, that I do know several other folks who have had this same issue with reimbursement with this same company, Amazon. I've talked with several individuals, actually, that I had them, told them about Amazon. And it's not Amazon as in Amazon, we know where we order that. That's just the name of their company. But I do know several other folks who've had the same challenge, as well as plumbing companies. Also, my refrigerator had an issue, same thing, came out. Then the next time it was the same issue with the ice maker, and the guy the company who came to my house on behalf of Amazon told me that they could not come out because they had not been paid for a year and a half on claims that Amazon sent them out on. So I just wanted to say that again for the record. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bonnie. Next caller, please.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Anyone in Carson City or Las Vegas wishing to speak in opposition to Senate Bill 436?
Good morning, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Jessica Ferrato here today on behalf of the National Home Service Contract Association. NHSCA has represented the nation's premier home service contract providers for nearly 20 years. NHSCA members adhere to a strict code of ethics which promotes sound and ethical business practices. As written, we remain to have concerns about the bill. The portions of the bill, Vice Chair and members of the committee, that we're concerned about are really around definitions so that the industry can comply. Adequate network is not defined in the bill. Timely and reasonable manner is not defined, as well as reasonable and necessary costs. I've been working with Senator Spearman in the Division of Insurance. We believe that the Division of Insurance currently has a lot of ability within their current statutes to be able to crack down on bad actors within the industry. Just for a second, I want to give you some perspective on the industry here in Nevada and some background. From its inception, the term home warranty has been used to describe, to sell and advertise contracts designed to help homeowners deal with the repair of household property due to things like normal wear and tear. Items like appliances, air conditioning, heating, sewer lines, and others. It's important to note that a home warranty is not insurance. One of the most common sales channels is from realtors to home buyers at the purchase of the home. For perspective, only 4% of the homes in the country have a home warranty. In the state of Nevada, there are more than 150,000 covered homes, filing more than 230,000 claims, which paid out in excess of $41 million in benefits, which would have cost homeowners significantly more at the prevailing rate. We want to thank the sponsor and the Division of Insurance for working with us. We're hoping to work on an amendment that will clarify some of these definitions and potentially collect data in the state in terms of what's happening with bad actors and how prevalent this is and what is currently existing in the marketplace in order to potentially move forward with a policy going forward. So appreciate the Senator, appreciate Division of Insurance, are currently opposed as written, but we'll keep working on the language. Thank you.
Thanks so much. BPS, is there anyone on the phone lines wishing to speak in opposition?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 436, please press star 9 now and take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone in Carson City or Las Vegas wishing to speak in neutral? Anyone on the phones wishing to speak in neutral?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 436, please press star 9 now and take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Senator Spearman, would you like to do some closing comments?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Senator Spearman for the record, representing Senate District 1. Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity, and thanks for the questions from my colleagues. One of the things that we spoke about with DOI is there are some definitions that if we put in concrete in statute, as things change, then we'd have to come back and do the statute all over again. And so giving Division of Insurance the opportunity to put that in regulations, and then as it changes or as it morphs, they can then change that. But the basic concept in this legislation is to say you can't not do that in Nevada. You just have to. I know someone personally whose air conditioner went out in August, and they were a dialysis patient. And the temperature got up to 118 degrees in the house. And even after the homeowner calling in writing, and submitting a complaint to the Division of Insurance, which they acted on, but the company still reneged, and the homeowner paid 3 times to have a technician come out, another different technician come out, say what was wrong, send them the information, and they still declined. And to this date, to my knowledge, the home warranty company still has not paid. And so this is a problem that we need to take care of, because we have individuals and we have a $3.64 billion industry. The individuals need justice, and they don't need to be jerked around by the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Spearman. With that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 436. We'll wait for Senator Spearman to come up to open the hearing on Senate Bill 201.
Good morning, Chair Spearman and Vice Chair Lang and the committee members. I want to thank the Chair for allowing this very important bill to be heard today. I'm honored to present this important bill, and with me today is Dr. Ken Kunke, who will be on Zoom with us. He's with the Nevada Pharmacy Alliance and a faculty member at Roseman University, and Liz McMenamin, to my right, with the Retail Association of Nevada, and Dr. Adam Porath, Vice President of Pharmacy at Renown Health. First, let me state for the record that I am a licensed pharmacist in California and not Nevada. and that I will be officially retiring as a pharmacist on the 30th of this month. Hence, this bill does not affect me personally. So what does this bill do? Pharmacists are one of the most educated but underutilized healthcare professionals. This bill, for the record, does not increase the scope of practice of pharmacists. This legislature has already done that, and I applaud your wisdom in doing so. Pharmacists working today, and especially those in collaborative practices, are able to partner with physicians and nurses to deliver primary care services in multiple settings. As an example, pharmacists can order and give immunizations. Pharmacists can order PEP and PrEP, commonly known as pre-exposure prophylaxis or post-exposure prophylaxis for AIDS prevention. But unfortunately, they were supposed to get reimbursed for their time in doing this, but it just hasn't come to fruition, necessitating, again, this bill. Qualitative diagnostic tests and treatment protocols. So these are tests that don't diagnose. The tests themselves give a positive or negative for a particular condition. And also reproductive health by providing oral contraceptives. While we've successfully expanded the scope of pharmacists in accordance with their clinical training, they have not been consistently paid for such services. What this bill will simply do is require Medicaid and private insurers to recognize and pay pharmacists for the services they already render in accordance with existing laws. This bill will not raise costs for Medicaid or private insurers, as these services being performed are presently being performed by another healthcare professional. Pharmacists under this bill can now perform these same services, but now be paid with the same fee that's paid to these other healthcare professionals. This will ease pressures, especially in busy primary care clinics, by allowing pharmacists to provide these same services without the institutions not being paid for the same. The fiscal note has been also appropriately modified to only reflect the cost to put this into statute. So next, I would like to invite Ms. McMenamin to give some testimony, and then we'll proceed further. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Spearman and members of this committee. First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time on this last day to see this, to hear this important bill and to listen to what we have to add to the healthcare community at large in Nevada and to take care of patients in Nevada. I'm going to be very brief in my statement. I just want to point out a few things that wasn't actually, that Senator Stone didn't cover, but the pharmacist's role has significantly increased to encompass healthcare and wellness screenings, many other things. And our patients in Nevada benefit for the expanded access to a wide variety of important and affordable healthcare services, and pharmacists are ready and able to do just that. And I'm going to stop there briefly and just say this interim, I had a phone call from a legislator. This body passed the contraceptive for women last session to be able to have a pharmacy be able to provide this contraceptive. Well, unfortunately, there was no mechanism in that legislation last session that would enable the pharmacies to be able to do that. They would have been giving them the contraceptive out for nothing. And the clinical service, the time involved in doing the evaluation on the patient, on that patient before them that the State Board of Pharmacy recommends, was timely and would take time from the pharmacy and the pharmacist to actually do that evaluation, which is costing money. So this legislation, SB 201, proposes to bring that into Nevada and allow those pharmacists to be reimbursed for those services that they can provide. With that, I'm going to stop. I can go on for hours, and I thank you, Senator Spearman, for hearing this. And I will turn it over to the professionals who know a lot more than I do and are a lot smarter. So, Dr. Porth, if you would like to take it.
Morning. For the record, Adam Porth, representing the Nevada Society of Health System Pharmacists. As Senator Stone mentioned, in my day job, I'm the Vice President of Pharmacy at Renown. I've been working in collaborative practice agreements for the last decade, where I co-manage patients for diabetes and blood pressure and blood thinner management. And I have the pleasure to work in a hospital-based setting where there is a reimbursement mechanism for that. Unfortunately, where we really need this service is in the primary care clinic and in the community pharmacy, for things like test and treat. I think the public health emergency really highlighted where we could leverage pharmacist services to, not only test for things like strep throat, influenza, other respiratory illnesses, but be able to get medication in patients' hands right away. So the two facets of this bill are the payment piece, and then the other facet, sections 1 through 5, 16, and 24, are really a cleanup of the prep bill from the last session. We have the mechanism to do the point of care testing for PEP and PrEP. However, the state requires that we have a CLIA-waived lab director that's somebody other than a pharmacist. So those sections of the bill would allow the pharmacist to be the director of the CLIA-waived lab to do those PEP and PrEP services. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Dr. Senator Jeff Stone. For the record, we're now going to go to Dr. Kunke, who's on Zoom with us today. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Senator Stone. Good morning, Chair Spearman and the members of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. My name is Ken Kunke, and I have been a practicing pharmacist in Nevada since 2003. I want to thank you for hearing Senate Bill 201 this morning, as we feel this is an important step to improving patient care in Nevada. Dr. Porath has gone through the sections of the bill, and there's two main things that we want to do. First, we want to be able to remain being able to test, patients for bacterial infections or viruses such as COVID testing, flu testing, things like that. And then the second part is the payment. I guess an example of how this payment would work is that right now there are pharmacists in Nevada working inside clinics. So they're working with doctors, nurses, physicians assistants, the whole medical teams, but there's no way for them to bill for their services. So say a patient comes in and they get diagnosed with diabetes, and by the doctor, the nurse, the doctor, the PA, the nurse practitioner diagnoses them, there's a lot of follow-up work that has to be done after they're diagnosed. And there's just not a lot of primary care physicians and service staff that are able to do that. So a pharmacist can actually make an appointment. The patient can make an appointment with the pharmacist, and the pharmacist can help go through the guidelines with that patient, teach them how to eat better, how to do things that can help their actual disease state. Go over their medications, making sure their medications are right. So we're working as a part of a team to make sure that these patients are being taken care of. Right now, those pharmacists working in those situations are usually working under grants, or they're paid by a university and to do these services, but we need an actual way to actually bill for these services, and that's what this bill would do. Not only do studies show that having a pharmacist doing these services on a healthcare team improves patient care, but they also show that there's a cost savings. One study found that for every $1 invested in clinical pharmacy services, $4.81 was saved in overall healthcare cost. Also, this is a highly supported bill. If you look on Nellis, 124 people have logged in to say they support this versus only one that does not support it. And many letters of support have been submitted to the secretary of your committee. And we wouldn't be the first state to do this. Washington State passed this bill in 2015, and we see pharmacists working inside these clinics and FQHCs, a lot of different places, and really taking care of patients there. And since that the positive things have happened in Washington State, we've seen a whole bunch of other states that are doing that. In this session, California has a similar bill going through. It voted 14 yeas, 0 nays to move forward. And then Maryland just passed both of their chambers, and it's on the way to their governor's desk. So we don't want to leave Nevada behind. But that's just a little bit about this. I'm here to answer questions later if needed. But thank you so much for hearing this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the essence of time, we're available to answer any questions that the committee might have. And thank you again for allowing us to present the bill.
Thank you. Committee, questions? Senator Pizzina?
Thank you so much, Chair, and I apologize. I have not had a chance to look too carefully through this yet, but I was looking at Section 3, Number 2, the part referring to a registered intern pharmacist, and it mentioned that the board may adopt regulations authorizing them to perform other activities. I was wondering if there was any direct supervision while they were performing those activities.
For the record, Adam Porth. Yeah, pharmacy interns have to be directly supervised.
Pharmacists, by the way, they begin their interns in year 2, right? So year 2 through year 4, if it's 4-year school, or year 3, they're working under the direct supervision of a licensed pharmacist.
Additional questions? Senator Daly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So 2 questions. Mine was in the first one was in section 3 as well. And I know there's guidelines on whatever, and there's trying to delineate what additional things a pharmacist can do, not trying to say that the bill's bad or anything like that. But I was just curious, when you have broad language like it has, I think it's on line 18 in section 3, where it says, or to otherwise facilitate the care of a patient. So how broad can someone interpret that, or is there rules and guidelines on what it is you can actually do versus anything I decide is to facilitate the care of the patient? There's limits, I'm sure. I just don't know where they are.
Thank you, Senator Justone. For the record, appreciate the question. As you know, pharmacists are governed by the State Board of Pharmacy. They enforce the scope of our practice. Any scope enhancements have to be passed by the State Board of Pharmacy. And so we can't do anything that is beyond our professional abilities. And if any of my other colleagues want to comment, they can.
For the record, Adam Porth. Yeah, I think part of that language was it says, you know, what labs would be necessary for monitoring of those medications. And so, you know, I could think of an instance where a patient could present to a retail pharmacy that maybe had been out of care for a while. And it's really important that we know what their kidney function is in order to make sure that that dose of medication is correct still. And so that would be an instance where I would think to ensure the care of the patient that we would really need to get that lab test in order to figure out if they're still taking the right dose.
Follow up, Madam Chair. Yep. So the having seen along with that and what we've seen, at least I recall reading in similar bills or other bills this session, I think I would ask you to consider making a small amendment that would say within the scope of your practice. That would cover it, I think, and make it very clear, because if that scenario you just said was in the scope of your practice, then fine. And then if they change the scope of your practice, it would be there. But I think that would be clarifying language that would be needed. If I see you shaking your head, so that's good. If I can go to my second question, and I just want to get a clarification on the gentleman that testified from Southern Nevada when he was talking about the grants. Now, I'm not against pharmacists being able to bill for their services and various things, but I just wanted to be clear that if a pharmacist is working under this grant situation, he's getting paid under the grant. Would he then be able to get paid under the grant and then also bill and double dip? I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong term. But if you're getting paid under the grant, you know, you're getting paid under the grant, you accepted that, so carry on. But if you're not, and there's not a way to bill for your services otherwise, I just wanted more clarification on that.
Senator Justone for the committee. Thank you again, Senator, for the question. I'm going to let Dr. Kunke follow me, but in terms of a retail setting, there's no double dipping. The pharmacist can't be paid by CVS, whatever they get paid per hour, and then provide the service and get additional revenue. And then Dr. Kunke will explain this a little bit further.
Ken Kunke for the record. So I did hear this question in the past, and it was about, are pharmacists going to be able to get paid for dispensing a medication and also providing like counseling, where normally we don't get paid for that? That's just part of the dispensing of the service. And so now they're worried about, are they going to get paid for more than one thing? And I reached out to the American Pharmacists Association in Washington State, and they said that with contracting and auditing with insurance companies, that this hasn't been an issue in the past. So I couldn't see double dipping in grant work also being an issue.
Madam Chair, if you may, if I might, I would like to also respond to Senator Daly's question about the scope of practice. Liz McMiniman Retail Association of Nevada. Senator, the scope of practice is already set in statute. This body decides what the scope of practice of a pharmacy is. The Board of Pharmacy simply enforces that and enforces your set rules and scope that you've set aside. So I just wanted to answer that and reinforce that question that you had, sir.
And I understand where it may say, I'm more comfortable with the words being there, then everybody's clear. There's no question somebody can't go outside or think they can do more than they can do. Within the scope of their practice works perfect for me.
And Senator Jeff Stone, for the record, we're very happy to insert that language to accommodate that clarity. Thank you so much.
Additional questions? Seeing none, step back and we'll call for those who are in support of Senate Bill 201. Don't see anyone coming forward in Las Vegas, here in Carson City. Okay. Start up here in Carson City. I see someone just came to the table in Las Vegas, Carson City.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Joan Hall, representing Nevada Rural Hospital Partners and their 17 affiliated RHCs. I think this is a great bill. It has real prospect for rural Nevadans who maybe can't get in to see their doctor, just need that test and to get treated. I'd appreciate your support of this. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Mindy Elliott. I've been talking a lot this week. On behalf of Nevada Rural Housing Authority, and I think that the previous speaker said it the best, we need access to health care in rural Nevada, and this is another opportunity for certainly our tenants that are out in the rural areas to get access so that they can help their families and get back to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Susan Fisher with McDonald Corano speaking on behalf of Select Health Insurance. We actually support this bill as well. This is a cost-saving measure, helps keep people out of hospitals and clinics, and enables people to go after work to pharmacies that are open late to be able to get these important tests done. Thank you.
Las Vegas.
Good morning. I'm Susan Profit, and I'm the Vice President of Nevada Republican Club. First, I'd like to thank all of you this morning. I am impressed that you are all working so hard together on what it seems to be a bipartisan bill. Senator Stone, this was very well written. I understood it without an attorney. Thank you. You know, in Florida, we have a lot more services at the pharmacy, and it works very, very well, especially, you know, cutting back on the influx of people in the emergency rooms because the pharmacies there are open more often. Our CVS here closes for lunch and also closes earlier in the evening. We have 24 hours in Florida. It's wonderful. I think that that's something you may want to consider in giving at least one pharmacy in each area, talk them into staying open 24 hours. This would really help. I really appreciate the fact that this is bipartisan, and I'm enjoying seeing that. So thank you very much. And I'm surprised that the insurance companies love it too. That is a win. Thank you very much.
BPS, anyone in support on the phones?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 201, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
No one there. Let's go on to those in opposition. Anyone in opposition?
I'm here to provide some support.
Okay, yeah, okay. Go on.
I'm calling in to provide some support. Thank you, Chair Spearman and members of the Senate Committee for Commerce and Labor. My name is Susan Nguyen, spelled last name Nguyen. I'm a pharmacist with Volunteers in Medicine of Southern Nevada, as well as faculty member at Roseman University College of Pharmacy. I'm calling in strong support of the bill because as it's passed, it would increase Nevadans' access to pharmacists provided patient care services. And so one thing I did want to mention is back in the year 2000, that was when the profession changed a lot in the fact that it was mandated that pharmacists get a PharmD degree, a doctorate of pharmacy degree. And so currently pharmacists are the only doctorate level healthcare professional that are not reimbursed in Nevada for providing services to patients that would be reimbursed if the service was done by another provider. So as a pharmacist working in the primary care setting, I provide chronic disease state education and management to patients who are underserved. And as an educator, I'm excited to be able to train the next generation of pharmacists to really be able to practice at the top of their license and scope of practice. So I know that definitely have knowledge of the impact of pharmacists on improving health outcomes and keeping patients out of the hospital. And I know that in the state of Nevada, underneath nurses and physicians, we are the third largest group of healthcare professionals in the state. So we have over 2,500 pharmacists working in the state of Nevada, and we could really be a part of the healthcare solution in this state. And so the other statistic that I wanted to provide as well is that 89% of Americans live within 5 miles of a community pharmacy. And so we had some callers talk about rural Nevada. That is a huge area that needs increased access to primary care services and things of that nature. And we as pharmacists just want to be recognized as part of the team and get reimbursed in doing so that we can really help with the healthcare shortage in Nevada. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Yeah, and BPS, I'm going to ask those of you who are on the phone lines, if you can please make sure that your testimony, if someone's already said what you want to say, please just say ditto. Some of us have another committee to go to, and I'd certainly like to hear this bill and consider it as part of our work session. And if we don't get the timing right, we're not going to be able to do that, okay? So.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Hi, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Amanda Villa. For the record, it's Villa, and I'm a pharmacist in the state of Nevada. I practice in Henderson mostly, in Southern Nevada. I just want to call in and give my support for the bill SB 201 and just echo what Dr. Nguyen had said and Dr. Kunke and everybody else has said in support of this bill. And I just want to thank you for the time to hear it and just show my support. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Amy Hale, Amyhale, and I'm a pharmacist and registered nurse in Southern Nevada who is speaking in support of SB 201. We as pharmacists begin learning about drugs from day one of our education, and our entire doctorate level curriculum focuses on medication therapy, how to treat diseases requiring medications, how to monitor and modify such treatments, and how to best craft a treatment plan for a patient considering additional concerns such as drug interactions, disease interactions, lifestyle preferences, etc. I personally had an active collaborative practice agreement with 9 oncologists in an outpatient oncology clinic in Las Vegas, but in large part due to my inability to bill for my services, I could not fully implement my education and expertise. We made the decision to dissolve the collaborative practice agreement, as although the providers agreed this was a helpful service for them, it was not financially feasible for the company. This bill could have allowed me to continue to support my physician colleagues, and patients could have had sessions with a medication expert for their very complicated cancer therapies. This also significantly reduced the burden on my providers. Many states allow pharmacists to bill for the care they provide, including this one. As of July 2022, pharmacists became recognized billable providers under Nevada Medicaid. We hope you will continue to support our desire to help patients access care while continuing to move our profession forward and finally allow us to practice at the tops of our licenses. Thank you so much for your time today.
Good morning, member of the committee. My name is Brian Ung, B-R-I-A-N, last name U-N-G, a student pharmacist at Roseman University, and I'm calling in to support of the Bill 201. And I've aligned with what Dr. Kunke, Dr. Nguyen, and Dr. Amy Held said as well. And we would like to be able to provide more clinical services and be billed for those. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello, this is Madid Raja, last name R-A-J-A. I'm a student, a pharmacist intern in Roseman. I am in support for SB 201 because I think pharmacists should be paid for their clinical services because they provide a valuable and essential service to patients and the healthcare system as a whole. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Caitlin Bowman, and I'm a pharmacist and the president of the Nevada Pharmacy Alliance. I'm here today to propose support in the bill, Senate Bill 201. And again, my last name is Bowman, B as in boy, O-W-M-A-N. I apologize for that. And I have time to read the letter of support, which we did submit, but in due time, I'd like to again echo the support by Dr. Kunke, Dr. Amy Hale, Dr. Susan Nguyen, the students who have called in, Dr. Amanda Villa, and of course that of Liz McMenamin and also Adam Porath and of course Senator Stone. Thank you so much in supporting pharmacists in Nevada. And I just like to say that the work I have done as a pharmacist, grant work, this is very limited and it is not sustainable. By providing support in this bill, you will open up the opportunity for all pharmacists in Nevada to be able to support our Nevadans who need access to health care. This is not just to say pharmacists need money. We get paid, but we're very limited in our space and the places in which we provide care. By supporting Bill 201, you are going to allow pharmacists to be part of the team care, which has been around for years. But again, as Dr. Amy Howe said, it's not sustainable. And as Dr. Wynn said, we are not going to be able to be in these places to care for patients. I again would like to thank you so much on this last day to hear the support of SB 201. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Michelle Wynn. I'm a student pharmacist from Roseman University. Last name is Nguyen. And I just want to echo what Dr. Kunke, Dr. Wynn, and all the others that have spoke in this call in support of SB 201. As an intern, I've worked alongside many pharmacists, and it's amazing to see how valuable the impact they have on patients' lives, and that is why I support SB 201. Thank you.
Hi, this is Katrin Ivanov, I-V-A-N-O Frank, aka Mrs. Fixit. I'm citizen in Assembly District 42 and Senate District 9. I want to go on the record in support of this bill. For the sake of time, I'll just say ditto. Thank you.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. We'll go now for those in opposition. Here in Carson City, Las Vegas. Don't see anyone coming to the tables. BPS, anyone on the phones?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 201, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
If it would please the chair, this is Wiz Razar, Deputy State Director with Americans for Prosperity. We're actually in support. Looks like VPS may have skipped my number, but I just want to say ditto for support. Thank you, Senator, for that. And let's get this to a work session. Thank you.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Anyone here in Carson City or in Las Vegas neutral? Don't see anyone coming to the tables. BPS, anyone on the phones? Neutral.
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 201, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, my name is Al Rojas from Senate District 12 in Las Vegas, Nevada. The system skipped me, and I wanted to say that I am in support of this bill. So I want to put a in support vote or opinion for this bill. Thank you.
There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Senator Stone?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Jeff Stone for the record. Just to respond to a couple of things, I appreciated the caller that said that I wrote the verbiage of the bill. I just gave the idea. I want to thank LCB staff for writing the legal language to the bill. I'm not that multi-talented, but I appreciate the thoughts. Also, I want to respond that we do have a number of 24-hour pharmacies throughout Nevada, so that's not something I think we need to address. And then lastly, when I was in pharmacy school, and I'm sure they keep teaching this idea that there is a triad of care. And the triad of care is the providers, including the physicians, the nurses, the physician assistants, the pharmacists, and the patient. And the more that we can make that triad work closer and better, the better it is for the patient. What this bill will do is it's going to provide for new access, especially in the rural areas that you spoke of, allows the pharmacists to use the skill sets that they have that are paid when they're other providers are providing them. It allows them to get paid now. And this is going to give hope to pharmacists that are going to pharmacy schools in Nevada that they have a profession that they're going to be a true participant, a better participant, a comprehensive participant in the health and safety of the patients that they're collectively helping to oversee with our other partners. And with that, Madam Chair, I thank you for your consideration of this bill.
Thank you. With that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 201. And I see all members of the committee here, so let's get started with our work session. Mr. Megalejo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Cesar Megalejo, Committee Policy Analyst. And technically, there are two separate work session documents that have been provided to the committee. One contains 6 bills, and the other one is separate. I will go through the bills that are consolidated first. The first bill on this work session is Senate Bill 183, which establishes provisions relating to the collection and destruction of unused drugs. It was sponsored by Senator Stone, Hansen, Buck, Titus, Cucurella, and Assembly members O'Neill, Dickman, and Gallant. Senator Stone proposed, there are 3 separate amendments that have been proposed for this bill. The first set is from Senator Stone, which proposes to delete paragraphs in subsection 1 of section 1, which had required a collector to notify a local law enforcement agency and the health authority of the existence of a secure drug take-back bin on the premises of the collector. Amendment number 2 is to add a new subsection in section 1 to prescribe that unless an agreement for the collection and disposal of a solid waste as part of a solid waste management system specifically includes the collection and disposal of a home-generated pharmaceutical waste, the agreement must not be construed to apply to the collection and disposal of home-generated pharmaceutical waste. Will Adler, Silver State Government Relations, additionally submitted some amendments for this bill, which to delete provisions in paragraph D of subsection 1 of section 1 of the bill, which requires that the conspicuous signage posted on a secure drug take-back bin include the hours during which deposit into the bin is permitted. Number 4 is to amend subsection 1 of section 1 to include that the collector only needs to notify law enforcement of any suspected or known tampering or theft or significant loss of controlled substance while under the control of the collector. Amendment number 5 is to amend subsection 1 of section 1 to include the collector shall be exempt from any restriction imposed by a political subdivision or other governing authority that may that may affect the collection and transportation of treatment or disposal of waste pursuant to maintaining a secure drug take-back bin for the collection and destruction of home-generated pharmaceutical waste. And amendment number 6 to amend the provisions of the bill that reference professional licensing board or licensing authority to denote the State Board of Pharmacy. This last amendment submitted by Kaylin Cardavani from the Nevada Justice Association proposes the following, which is to amend subsection 3 of section 1 to add directly to provide that a collector is not subject to any civil or criminal liability or professional discipline or any injury or harm that directly results from a collector maintaining a secure drug take-back bin on its premises unless the injury or harm directly results from the gross negligence or willful wanton misconduct of the collector. And Madam Chair, that's all the amendments for Senate Bill 183.
Thank you. Committee questions? I'll entertain a motion. Men do pass.
So moved.
I have a motion from Vice Chair and second from Hammond, Senator Hammond. Any additional questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Give this floor statement to Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Cesar Margarejo, Committee Policy Analyst. Next bill is Senate Bill 310, which establishes provisions relating to dentistry, sponsored by Senators Kukuchia and Hansen, and it was heard on April 12, 2023. There are several amendments that were discussed during the bill hearing from the Nevada Hygienists Association, and just for the sake of time, I won't be reviewing these amendments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Questions? Entertain a motion. Have a motion from Senator Daley, men do pass. I heard a second somewhere. Is that Senator Buck? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll give that floor statement. Go to you. Yeah, give the floor state. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Cesar Margarejo, Committee Policy Analyst. Our next bill is Senate Bill 328, which revises the procedures by which a Cannabis Compliance Board is required to adopt, amend the repeal regulations, and sponsored by Senators Titus and Gwynn. It was heard on April 12, 2023. During the bill hearing, the Nevada Cannabis Association proposed an amendment to amend subsection 6 of section 1 to delete the inclusion of the board with its subsection, which have exempted the board from the Nevada Administrative Procedure Act with respect to adjudication of contested cases. The amendment to the bill will make the contested case provisions of Chapter 233B of Nevada Revised Statutes, which apply to other state agencies, applicable to the board, and remove any provisions of Chapter 678A of NRS that are needed to conform. Madam Chair, that's all the amendments.
Thank you. Committee, questions? Yeah. Okay, I'm entertaining a motion. Senator Daley. Men do pass. Have a second from Senator Stone. Any further questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And the motion carries. So I will give the floor statement to Senator Titus. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Cesar Margarejo, Committee Policy Analyst. Our next bill is Senate Bill 336, which revises provisions relating to the regulation of certain healing arts, and was sponsored by Senators Orenthal and Stone, and it was heard on April 3rd, 2023. There is an amendment that was discussed during the bill hearing. This amendment is a conceptual amendment submitted by Blaine Osborne, President of the Nevada Rural Health Partners, and which is to add new provisions to the bill to authorize certified registered nurse estheticians to work at their scope of practice in prescribing controlled substances and dangerous drugs, which includes anesthetics, if they are working in a critical access hospital in Nevada. Madam Chair, that's all the amendments.
Committee questions? I'll entertain a motion. Amend to pass. Senator Stone, do I have a second? Second from Senator Pazina. All those in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. I'll give this floor statement to Senator Stone. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Cesar Margarejo, Committee Policy Analyst. Our next bill is Senate Bill 370, which revises provisions relating to consumer health, and sponsored by Senators Canizaro, Gwynn, and Tonate et al., and it was heard on April 10th, 2023. There are several amendments that were submitted by Senator Canizaro, which proposes this, were proposed in the attached mock-up prepared by the Legal Division of the Legislative Counsel Bureau. In addition, behind the mock-up, there is a separate document containing some various conceptual amendments. Madam Chair, that's all the amendments.
Thank you. Committee questions? Comments? Entertain a motion. Amend to pass. I have a motion from Senator Daly, second from Senator Pazina. All those in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. And the motion carries. And we'll give the floor statement to the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Cesar Margarejo, Community Policy Analyst. Our next bill is Senate Bill 393, which revises provisions related to dental insurance, and was sponsored by Senator Severs Ganser, and it was heard on April 12, 2023. There is an amendment that was presented and discussed by Paul Klein, representing the Nevada Dental Association. This is the same provisions that were discussed during the bill hearing, but I did want to clarify that the amendment states to delete Section 13, which is the effective date of the provisions of this bill. However, the sponsors of this amendment have stated that they want to keep Section 13, which would make the bill effective on January 1, 2024. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all amendments.
Thank you. Questions? I'll entertain a motion. Amend to pass.
So moved.
I have a motion from Senator Scheibel, second from Senator Stone. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed, no? And the ayes have it. Floor statement. Give the floor statement to Minority Leader Severs Ganser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Cesar Margarejo, Community Policy Analyst. For the record, our next bill is Senate Bill 106, which revises provisions relating to ophthalmic dispensing. It was sponsored by Senator Severs Ganser, and it was heard on March 27, 2023. Senator Severs Ganser has submitted a mock-up that was prepared by the Legal Division of the Legislative Counsel Bureau. It deletes a majority of the sections and just amends Section 6 to exempt from the provisions of law governing ophthalmic dispensing the sale of prescription eyewear to an intended wearer located outside of the state, or any design, manufacturing, or other activity in conjunction with such a sale. And the amendment changes the effective date to October 1, 2023.
Thank you. Committee questions? Comments? I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion from Vice Chair Lang, second from Senator Scheibel. Additional questions? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. And we'll give that floor statement to Senator Severs Ganser.
That's all the work session documents.
No.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Cesar Margarejo, Committee Policy Analyst. There is no work session document for Senate Bill 201, but if you did want to take a vote on that bill, you could. I just wanted to clarify that the motion would include Senator Daly's amendment, which he proposed during the discussion, which is to amend Section 3, subsection 1, paragraph A, just to add within the scope of their license at the end of that paragraph.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to amend to pass. Have amend to pass motion from Senator Buck, second from Senator Stone. Further questions? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. We'll give the floor statement to Senator Stone. Okay. So here's a caveat. We're going to vote on 436, and there was some language that came in for the amendment, and I'll make a commitment to Ms. Ferraro that we will look at the language, and if there anything that can't be worked out with the amendment, I'll commit to you we can work on a floor statement, okay? All right. So, 436.
Let me just do a rough review of the amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Cesar Magrejo, Committee Policy Analyst for the record. The amendment for SB Senate Bill 436 has not been posted on Nellis, but we will post it as soon as possible. And just for the knowledge of the committee members, the amendment proposes to include additional sections to this bill, which revise Nevada Revised Statute 690C.170, which governs financial security requirements, limitation on the use of money in the reserve account, effect of failure to maintain. Would also revise or add Nevada Revised Statute 690C.260, which governs contents, false or misleading statements prohibited, authority of the commissioner to require amendment of false or misleading statements. Would also add and amend NRS 686A.310, which governs unfair practices in settling claims, liability of insurer for damages. And lastly, it would add, the amendment includes a conceptual amendment to require the Commissioner of Insurance to submit a report, an initial report to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Commerce and Labor, detailing the status of the service contract provider industry in the state of Nevada by December 31, 2023. Madam Chair, I believe that's the majority of the amendments.
Thank you. Committee members, questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion, amend to pass. Have a motion from Senator Stone. Do I hear a second? Second from Senator Buck. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. And I'll take the floor statement. So, committee will be in recess until the call of the chair. There's one more bill that we heard today that we really need to take a look at, but we will not do that now. Okay? So we will be in recess until the call of the chair. Thank you.